Hey everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Peloton podcast. I'm Spencer Martin, author of the Beyond the Peloton newsletter. I'm here with Andrew Vontz from the Choose the Hard Way podcast and newsletter. We're talking Vuelta España. Stage 13 just wrapped up. Probably the hardest climb in pro cycling. Won by João Almeida, Jonas Vingegaard in second, right behind him, same time. Jai Hindley third, Sepp Kuss fourth, Felix Gall fifth. Tom Pidcock, the little engine that could, still on the podium after finishing seventh. We'll talk a little Vuelta, then we'll get into a little odds and ends with Andrew. I have some questions for you about our own personal goals, fitness, riding, life. But Andrew, before we get going, do you want to plug anything?
Spencer, it's been really interesting this week because I'm working with a former professional cyclist who is a senior executive in technology who's going on podcasts, and they reached out to me because I have a consultancy that helps people be great podcast guests or hosts and take a strategic approach to podcasting. It's called One Real Voice. If you're serious about being great, reach out to me. You can DM me at HardwayPod or send an email to hello@onerealvoice.com. Whatever level you are at, I will take you higher. And please subscribe to my Substack. If you follow Spencer's, I'm one of his recommended reads. You'll find me on that list, or go to alwaysthehardway.substack.com. And I've got an episode of Choose the Hard Way coming up with Payson McElveen, and it's pretty incredible. I'm excited to share it with you on Choose the Hard Way. Spencer, my notebook right now, it's starting to combust because there are such hot takes written down following the stage that we just witnessed today. I have a few questions for you as well, and I'm excited to be here.
What's your, you're fresh off watching this. I was doing it in between school runs, had to catch up. So I didn't absorb it live, which makes the takes hotter, I feel like. What's your hottest take after the stage?
Man, what is my
I will
hottest
say this
take?
while you think, I thought Almeida looked amazing. Unfortunately, I don't really understand this. The rider who wins this stage more often than not, does not win the Vuelta a España. So just something to think about.
The thing that I thought as I was watching the stage, we had João and Jonas up the road, and then behind we had Jai Hindley and Sepp Kuss, so former winners of the Giro d'Italia and Vuelta a España, being dropped as these guys were battling out the stage win. I think as I was watching this, I had a thought that I've had many times this season, which is, on these super teams, you have a stacked roster of riders who could be Grand Tour winners riding in support of the people who end up winning the biggest race, the Tour de France. That then makes me think about, well, what if these riders had the opportunity to compete on a different team? But I keep regressing. This is a regressive loop because it always goes back to, no matter how good you are, you really need to be surrounded by a group of domestiques who are potential Grand Tour winners themselves. And then as I was watching this stage unfold today, I started thinking about Tom Pidcock with his GC aspirations. I know we're going to get into it today. And even if Tom Pidcock is able to hang on, which he wasn't today, but this is an unusual stage, as you noted, how are they ever going to build the team to support this guy to be a Grand Tour contender? That's a big question mark.
That's a good question. I mean, part of the reason that helps so much is because you don't have to compete against them. Like, think about UAE. They have on their team Isaac Del Toro, Juan Ayuso, João Almeida, and then that's like three guys Pogacar doesn't have to worry about at the Tour because they aren't racing against him. So it's like, I only have to worry about Jonas. Makes it a lot easier. I mean, Jonas doesn't have to worry about Sepp Kuss here. He's on his team, or does he? We don't know. But we should say up top, Jonas Vingegaard still leading the race, 46 seconds over Almeida, 2:18 over Pidcock, who's in third, 3 minutes over Hindley in fourth, Felix Gall fifth, 3:15. Gall looked pretty fried to me from that Tour. I don't think he's going to move up onto the podium. Also worth noting, there's only 4 Grand Tour winners at this race. Jonas Vingegaard has twice as many Tour de France wins as the rest of the field combined in his career. So you would not say this is like the hardest, the stiffest GC field ever. But of those 4 Grand Tour winners, 3 of them finish in the top 4 of the stage. Jonas Vingegaard, Jai Hindley, Sepp Kuss, João Almeida is the only one in the top 4 that doesn't have a Grand Tour overall win in his career. The other one, Egan Bernal, not looking great for him. That guy, I feel like every race they're like, is this Egan Bernal? He's going to come back. It's like, I think we're looking at what we're looking at here with Egan Bernal. I don't think he's coming back to be better than he currently is. Tom Pidcock, it feels like we're getting the cart in front of the horse a little bit. I want to see him finish on the podium here before I worry about his Q36.5 team's prospect in the future. But you're pulling on interesting strings, Andrew, because think about being a rider like Juan Ayuso, perhaps. You're on UAE. You want to leave UAE. You want to go to greener pastures. He signed, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but he signed with Lidl-Trek. He's going to Lidl-Trek next year. Contract's done. Sounds good, right? Well, let me list you teams that have won the last, let's say, 9 Grand Tours. UAE, Tour de France, Visma, Giro d'Italia, last year Vuelta, Red Bull, last year Tour, UAE, last year Giro, UAE, Vuelta before that, Visma, Tour before that, Visma, Giro before that, Visma. It's just the same teams. And Red Bull is like the only, they won a Grand Tour in 2022 with Jai Hindley, 2024 with Primož Roglič. It's these same teams that win every Grand Tour. And then you ask yourself, is that because of the riders they put around them? Is it an ethos? Is it fueling? Is it just having more vans than everybody else so you can get people nutrition along the course? But it is something to think about when you see these breakout riders on these teams like Q36.5. Like, I don't know. I just don't think they ever will win a Grand Tour. I don't know if this feels like the best chance Tom Pidcock will ever have to win one. So if he doesn't do it now, I don't know if it's a funny thing because I'm very impressed with what he's doing here. He could finish on the podium. Hindley, bit of a concern now that he's 52 seconds behind him, climbing really well. I don't know if he can hold him off, but let's say he finishes on the podium. It's like that might be like the best that Tom Pidcock can do because he's never going to get a better Grand Tour than this one. This is like suits Tom Pidcock perfectly. Also, we should say the climbing time today on Les Angliru was 1 second slower than the record set by Roberto Horas back in 2002. Can you imagine how heavy that bike was? He was riding a triple chainring, by the way. Holy smokes. And way faster when they did this in 2023. So that means Almeida, who I think he finished like a minute behind Roglič and Vingegaard on that stage in 2023, is like significantly faster than he was 2 years ago. It means Vingegaard was faster than he was 2 years ago. So that is like kind of interesting. It shows you the level is just like always increasing. And then that tells you Jai Hindley, who finished 28 seconds back on the stage, might be like at the best level Jai Hindley's ever been at. We just don't perceive it that way. But Andrew, roundabout way of asking you, do you feel vindicated about Juan Ayuso leaving UAE? You called this last week.
Of course I feel vindicated. I knew that this was coming, Spencer. It was
a German team. We just had the wrong German team.
Yeah, it seemed obvious that this was going to go down, and I am really interested as well in Ayuso's performance following this being publicly disclosed. That was quite interesting to see after this public dispute erupted that he turns around and cracks the pepper. When I think about him going to Lidl-Trek, how many times this season, Spencer, have we talked about the power of these teams that are not pursuing a Tour de France GC and how remarkably well they perform
I know.
when they focus? I mean, I feel like what we're about to experience here is the quick step circle of life all over again. And I just wonder, do you want to open a second front when you're getting the results that Lidl-Trek is? And at the same time, we both know that this is what sponsors generally want, is they want that Tour de France title. And the question then becomes, okay, you get Ayuso. Does he have the talent when we put him in the hot seat and he has to bear the weight and have the emotional maturity to actually lead and inspire confidence in a team? in the highest pressure arena of this entire sport at the Tour de France, it's a pretty big question mark.
I don't even know if it's a question mark. I mean, what we're seeing from him is embarrassing at this race. Yeah, 2 stage wins, impressive. The guy could be stage winner galore, right? Throughout his career. He finishes almost last 2 days ago. Then yesterday wins the stage, and then today is dropped before they get to the final climb. So it's, oh, sorry, I can't help João Almeida. Same thing with Marc Soler. Marc Soler has been no help to Almeida at all this race. He's only been helpful when he's up the road trying to help Ayuso win stages. Like, they have riders on completely different programs. Almeida had decent support today, but from Jay Vine and Felix Großscharter, not from any of the highly paid riders on the team. Like, unbelievable that Ayuso is just like, I don't think I've ever seen a rider of this caliber with GC aspirations just kind of like phone in half the stages of a Grand Tour. Frankly, it's hard to ever get that virus out of your head. Once you start sitting up, you usually never rejoin the GC ranks. It's like you kind of have to be in the GC mindset, or you're not in it at all. But here's the hottest take maybe I'll have all year. I was watching the stage yesterday, stage 12, Juan Ayuso, Javier Romo up the road, both very powerful men. And I was thinking, Ayuso, he's listed at like 65 kilos. He is like a swimmer's body. This guy is like big shoulders, big athlete, like over 6 feet tall. I think he might just be too big to be a Grand Tour contender in modern cycling. Like, the sport is shrinking. The stages are shrinking. They're getting faster and shorter. And the riders that contest Grand Tours are shrinking. Like those Grand Tours that I just listed out, that's Tadej Pogačar, Simon Yates. Simon Yates is like 125 pounds. Pogačar is 65 kilos. He's not a big guy. Primož Roglič, also not a big guy. Sepp Kuss, not a big guy. Jonas, not a big guy. Remco, not a big guy. Jai Hindley, not a big guy. The last like big guy to win a Grand Tour, probably Geraint Thomas in 2018. Like, I think the modern Grand Tour are not won by people the size of Juan Ayuso, who is like a great, powerful rider, like great athlete, powerful rider. I think it's a mistake to even think that he's a GC contender. I know he got third at the Vuelta when he was 19, but that was a different race. That was frankly a long time ago at this point. As I said, these guys are climbing significantly faster than they did 2 years ago, and Ayuso's not climbing any faster. So like, he's losing ground on the GC contenders as he's trying to become a GC leader. So I don't fully understand what's going on there.
Spencer, if we take a look at Lidl-Trek's roster today, which is the only day in which we're having this conversation, of that roster of 30 riders, we only have 6 riders under the age of 25. And further, we have to think about the fact that we have the 3-body problem happening once you introduce Ayuso to the mix. What do I mean by that? We have 3 separate centers of gravity, 3 macro planets in the universe of Lidl-Trek when we go to the Tour de France next year. We're going to have Juan Ayuso, who we know is going to want to win the GC. That's why this guy is signed. We know that Mads Pedersen will be there. I have to imagine he gets to go to the Tour next year. He seems like a pretty big gun on the team that you're going to want to bring to the Tour de France to ride in support of whatever the plan is. He's also going to want to win stages. And we know that Jonathan Milan is going to be there also wanting to win stages. Without seeing what happens in the race, we already have the Wout Jonas tension within this team. And for a team that's going to really be going after the GC at the Tour for the first time, I don't know how they balance going for stage wins, which they're used to, and they're going to want to do, with the fact that they're going to have riders who credibly could support Ayuso in his bid to win the GC. So I think they're going to have to set aside egos and some of the Amazon Prime free shipping that they're expecting at the race next year. And I think that's going to be really hard for morale and egos within the team. And I'm not sure how it works out.
I mean, I don't know if I don't know if Juan Ayuso can set aside his ego. If he couldn't bring himself to work for Tadej Pogačar, probably the best rider of all time. What if they don't bring him to the tour? That would be but, I mean, on Pedersen, like, he has to go. Like, he might be the best rider at this Vuelta. Did you see, like, so
Right.
yesterday, mountain stage, he's in the breakaway, max points at the sprint, then almost wins the stage. He's chasing them down, gets 5th on the stage. Today, again, in the break, gets max points at the intermediate sprint. Potentially now he could win the green jersey, which is hard to do because the Vuelta, the way the points are weighted, gives a higher priority to people that win the overall or just win mountain stages. So Pedersen has to go to the tour. I, I don't really get. I don't like the move. I mean, maybe if Juan Ayuso is a great stage winner, like if you hire him just to win stages, like a deluxe Jay Vine, but the problem is like Jay Vine works when he's not winning stages. He's a domestique. Juan Ayuso's just proven he'll never work for anybody. So what exactly are you getting? I guess a rider that he can time trial and kind of climb, but Patrick Bro, and when Lantern Rouge was doing their preview show yesterday, I thought he like let something slip that you're not supposed to say, where they were trying to pick the stage winner. He's like, well, Ayuso can't win because he's not a good enough climber. It's like, whoa, 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 right there. Like, if you're not a good enough climber to win this stage, you're just not a good enough climber to be a top GC rider. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's mountains in all the Grand Tours, Andrew. So you have to be a pretty good climber. Usually the best climber at the race wins the overall. So I just like, where's the magical climbing form going to come from that he doesn't have at this race? He had all summer to prepare for it. He's saying, I didn't prepare for it. But it's like, well, then that begets questions, because why are you not ready when you knew that this was your last chance with the team? Andrew, why is he at this race? I also can't figure that out. Like, yeah, the stage ones are nice, but they clearly had that drafted, the agreement for him to leave the race before the race started. They bring him, they get mad at him because he sits up and won't work, and then releases it early. It's supposed to be released after the race is over. But why do you think he's even here in the first place?
My best guess is that management made the good faith assumption that, like most professional cyclists, he would be a professional and show up and do his job.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
fair.
let's think about it. Transfers, we know, happen, or deals are made following the Tour de France. Riders generally do not leave teams in the middle of the season, and they'll move on to their new trade team at the end of the year. They might go to the training camp of their new team. They do have to wear their old kit until the end of the year and ride the old bike until the end of the year. That's how the deals work. And I'm trying to think of anyone in the 37 years I've been following professional cycling who has ever done something analogous to this. And I mean, the only one I thought of, which we corresponded about, was Miguel Angel Lopez.
Yeah, it is actually. We're entering Lopez territory, which you never want to go to the Lopez zone.
Yeah. And we know what happened to him. And I'm not going to get into areas of dangerous speculation. I think that the Miguel Angel Lopez incident and what subsequently happened indicated to me that if you start to behave unprofessionally, I have a feeling that there might be second and third order consequences, and you might start getting a greater amount of scrutiny as an athlete within the sport across the board, not just by your team or your future team. I feel like you start to put yourself under a microscope I don't think you want to be under.
True. Yeah, well, that's an interesting theory. So just if people don't know the Lopez lore. So he's third overall after stage 19 of the 2021 Vuelta. I still can't believe this happened. Gets mad at the team on stage 20 because like someone's not helping him, or he missed the move. Gets off his bike, gets in the car, and goes home, sitting third overall. That is crazy. And then he unraveled. He got caught up in like a drug smuggling, like a performance enhancing drug smuggling ring. I would wonder though.
Allegedly,
I don't know if it is allegedly. I think. Okay, let's say allegedly. I think he did get caught. I don't know. He didn't get caught. He didn't test positive, but he was definitely colluding with someone he shouldn't have been colluding with, who was like an international criminal. But is being reckless enough just to get out of your car and leave, get in the car and leave the Vuelta make you more likely to take risks other riders wouldn't take off the bike? I wonder
or does it make it more likely that people might start looking at your behavior across the board? Yeah.
We've definitely seen people, the track record of people who have gotten off bikes and gotten in cars at Grand Tours in their life tends to not be very good. I won't name the other people, but some of them have faced prison time, others have faced potential prison time for issues off the bike. But to go back to the climb today, João Almeida led pretty much the whole way. Jonas Vingegaard's on his wheel. Jonas never really gives away much, but two clues that maybe he didn't feel great. He didn't attack and he didn't win the stage. Like, it's kind of a funny finish. You crest, it's really steep, like 20% average for kilometers. And you crest it, and then it's this really crazy downhill to the finish line. You really can't pass anybody on it. I would love to see someone dive bomb that corner at the end. But so whoever crests it usually wins. Almeida goes over the top, descends down. Vingegaard, I don't think he could come out of his wheel. But what were your thoughts about that, and what do you think this means for the rest of the Vuelta?
Not much. I don't think it means much. I think it means that Almeida won the day. Jonas is most likely to win the overall at this race. And
how do you think he wins it? Out climbing him, time trialing him, just holding this gap?
I think that he's likely to hold the gap and maybe he'll get 5 to 10 seconds in the time trial. That's what I think will happen. How do you see it unfolding?
I think it's going to be pretty boring, to be honest with you. I think these guys
are not already pretty boring.
These guys are, what a terrible course design, by the way. It's like, let's have every stage be nothing, and then like today they didn't televise the first 2/3 and we missed nothing. It's like every day is like that. But
it's almost like they don't care and they're saving money on production costs by having these stages that are just nothing's going to happen, and then you have the final climb. As we've talked about many times, when you do that over and over, you just start to nullify what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, especially if like some of the climbs have been, I mean, we saw it wasn't that hard on stage 9, and that's been the big day so far where Jonas attacks at the bottom. It's kind of an interesting climb in retrospect because it's steep at the bottom. He gets a gap and he just holds the gap on the fast part. It helped that he was sitting on the bumper of a motorcycle. That never hurts. But I think they're pretty equal, and I think they're going to go into, they're probably going to stay with each other on all these climbs. They're not going to be able to drop each other. And then the thing is, I don't know if Jonas, from what I saw today, can out time trial Almeida. Maybe he loses 20 seconds in the time trial, though, and we see like, oh, it's a 20-second victory, and it looks exciting on paper, but it's not actually been exciting. That's kind of my prediction.
Another thing that's on my mind is I thought about Quinn Simmons. I'm just stuck on this Lidl-Trek roster and who's going to the Tour next year and who are you going to leave home? Jonathan Milan, Mads Pedersen, Quinn Simmons. Seems like you have to take these riders. Skelmoose, I feel like you have to take. So that's 4. Ayuso is 5. And then who are your 3 other riders? Are you going to, I don't know who the climbers are. Ciccone, but he's 30. Is he a difference maker? Do you take him to the Tour? Who else goes?
I guess he wasn't at the Tour this year.
Right. And then I also started to think about Theo Geoghegenhardt, and
I forgot he was on that
team.
Right?
Former Giro winner. I guess he hasn't been the same since shattering his hip and his leg, which would make sense.
Yeah.
It's actually not funny at all, but it's funny that they have a former Grand Tour winner on the team, and it's not very top of mind.
Well, I was about to be like, I don't know what's happened to that guy, but yes, you bring up a key detail that he did shatter the part of his body that he pedals his bike with.
Yeah.
Pretty sad, actually, because I was in 2023 at the Giro. He looked really good at that Giro.
Right.
And then has never been the same since.
Right.
But, some of that, too, I think, is illness.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy thing about pro cycling is like a lot of it, I don't know. Like when I try to the newsletter, I try to like project out who's going to be good, who's not going to be good. And everyone's like, well, that's not fair. They haven't been good because they've been hurt or they've been sick. But a lot of times that's what makes or breaks a career. It's like,
Right.
if you get sick for 2 years, you're done. You never get back on that treadmill.
Yeah. Well, and they have Thibaut Nice as well.
Thibaut Nice, who's also very good. Yes.
Yeah. So I like, who are you kicking off the team to bring in?
I guess you budget, half these guys will be injured. So then
yeah, that's true.
Sick or injured. And then you have guys like Dan Uhl, like you might have to bring just to do work, or Tim the Clerk. He might be too old.
Right.
Leonard Kamna, who was like in his day one of the best mountain stage winners. It is a funny roster, isn't it? I know the team is going through change. So they were owned by Trek. They got the majority ownership was then purchased by Lidl, a German company. And now they're moving the service course from Belgium, which is very common to have a service course in Belgium, to Germany, which is very unusual to have a service course in Germany because Germany is quite geographically isolated from where bike racing is. You know, potentially they could do it like right over the border. It's like over the border from the Benelux. So you're still closely located to Belgium, but you're in Germany. But the team is definitely seems like it's changing from a like Italian-American team to a German team. So there potentially could be some personnel and rider changes as well with that. And that's why we're maybe in a transition phase, which is why some of this doesn't appear to make any sense at all about who's on the team and who's doing what races.
And with the Angleroo climb today, it also was mentioned during the broadcast, going back to my brain has been completely erased. Hugh Carthy, former winner of the stage. What happened to Hugh Carthy? I've just looked him up on Pro Cycling Stats. I'm not talking about what's going on this year. What happened with his career generally, Spencer?
I've had multiple conversations with people about this, and no one really seems to know or have any idea, including his team. But he gets third at that Vuelta, where we should say that was not a full Vuelta. It was an 18-stage Vuelta. So that does help you, Carthy, because they skipped the first week. You know, like all the FAF, the sprint stages were just gone. It was actually awesome. They went right into the mountains, first stage. So he did have a cleaner run out of than normal. Gets third, a minute 15 behind Primož Roglic. Think about that. He has some decent performances after that. Like he got 8th at the Giro the next year, and then just falls off a cliff. Like to the point where he's not only is he not a GC contender or a stage contender, he's not even able to perform work for the team in an effective way, which is not a good place to be. He's 31, doesn't have a contract for next year. I think he might be out of the sport after this year. I have no idea. I actually don't really want to speculate publicly, but you have to imagine that, I don't know, that something has happened, because that's more than just like, oh, you know, you think about Theo Gegenhardt, like wins the Giro, doesn't repeat that, but there's like obvious things that we can trace as to why he's not been at his best. Hugh Carthy doesn't really have that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery. He was mentioned by Matteo Jorgensen and Victor Kampenertz's behind-the-scenes video from today as another quote-unquote physically large rider. It's mind-blowing when you look at people of this size. Same thing with Matteo, who was in the video shirtless and with a radio taped to his chest. I didn't know that's how they were doing it these days. There's like duct tape over his walkie-talkie on his chest. Is that how it goes down now?
The walkie-talkie on the chest?
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to do it, I guess, because it's like a fairing. It's like a legal fairing, kind of.
Yeah, it's like the old Camelback down the
but
front.
What happens if you crash on your chest and you have this radio like pressing through your sternum? No thanks.
I have no idea. He was referring to himself as being a larger person in the peloton, and then they mentioned Hugh Carthy. And looking at Matteo with his shirt off, I'm not sure where more weight comes off this guy, unless it's like an urban legend Pamela Anderson thing and a few ribs come out. You know what I'm saying?
But not Pamela Anderson, wasn't that?
Marilyn Manson? I don't know.
Manson, yeah.
I don't know.
But how did we all I've become somewhat obsessed with this. Like pre-internet, we all knew the same stuff throughout, no matter where you lived in the country. Like it's like the cousin effect. You visit your cousins and
Right.
then they spread the same rumors and then we all know the same thing. But, you know, Matteo, very skinny. Like he was on the move 2 years ago and he was like naked on the move, which was interesting, but he was very skinny.
Just some
We could,
guys hanging around.
yeah, we could see him all. He looked very skinny, but he's also eating like fake ice cream. Like that's like he's obsessed with keeping his weight down. The thing about Matteo though, he's very tall. He's like taller than you, perhaps, Andrew, like 6'3", 6'4". And I'm looking at the last over 6 foot Grand Tour winner I can find is Theo Gegenhardt, who's 6 foot even in 2020. And then before that, it's Geraint Thomas, who probably is also 6 foot even. And then the last true tallman to win a Grand Tour, I guess Chris Froome, but he's like 6'1". And then like it's Dumoulin and Hejjedal and Bradley Wiggins. But so like I think that's where the weight is. It's just his height. Like it could be hard for him to make that next step just because he's tall, which is kind of crazy to think about. That used to be an advantage. Remember, it was like they got long femurs, they can time trial well, but these riders are shrinking. I don't know what to make of it.
The thing is, though, Spencer, they were mentioning how Hugh Carthy has narrower shoulders. So maybe it's a CDA thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. But that's like another thing about Juan Ayuso. Those big. It sounds weird. We're just sitting around like dissecting young men's bodies, but the shoulders. I don't like those shoulders, Andrew. It just makes me think of Steven Kreuzwick. You're like, they're just out there. They're getting wind. They're heavy. Your frame is too big. It's just the wide shoulders. It might be a great look with the Speedo on, but when you're trying to win bike races, it's not fantastic. We'd be remiss if we did not discuss. We saw it again today. Protester. Speaking of Quinn Simmons, if Quinn Simmons was at this race, this problem would be solved. But like, so Bob Jungels, it's Bob Jungels and Alexander Vinokurov's son, Nicholas Vinokurov, off the front on going into the hardest climb in pro cycling. And there's just people standing in the road protesting the race. 2 days ago, there was no winner. Poor Tom Pidcock, by the way, probably would have beaten Jonas Vingegaard, win the stage. Nope, sorry, no finish because there's protesters at the finish line. But these guys just come out and block the race today. They have to stop, and then the breakaway is not credited any time. It's just like, oh, sorry. Like this is not at the level of a professional sporting event. It's pretty embarrassing, and the Spanish way of dealing with it, like there's a guy in the road, they push him out of the road, they then let him go, and then of course he just runs back into the road. Like it's a very relaxed way of trying to keep people off the road. I guess they're pro-Palestinian protesters. I've heard they are protesting the Israel Premier Tech team in this race. The thinking, I guess, is that if the team dropped out, the protest would stop. I personally don't think that would stop the protest. I think people would keep protesting because I cannot imagine their main concern is Matthew Riccatello going to the top 10. I have to imagine their concern is the actual events going on in Gaza that the Israel government is responsible for. So I don't think it would stop the protest. Maybe it would. Maybe I'm wrong. But it's my opinion that it's the race's responsibility and the UCI's responsibility. The race asked Israel Premier Tech to leave publicly. It's like, that's such a cop-out. Like, you guys have to secure the course, because what happens next year when someone's mad about Saudi Arabia, and then are they just going to come protest Jaco Alula and make them this opens up a whole can of worms that I don't think cycling's ready for.
I have had concern about the issue of rider safety and interaction with spectators and the open nature of the playing field in professional cycling for a long time. Riders are a soft target. This is a non-secure environment, as we're aware. And setting aside the specifics and the political issues at stake here, just thinking more broadly about people who want to disrupt sporting events and whether their intentions are to exercise free speech, that's one thing. And people should have the right to do that. Disrupting an event and putting the safety of the riders into danger is a different thing. And I took this photo. I'll hold it up for anybody who's watching. They might be able to see this. So I don't know if you saw this moment, Spencer, but this is João Almeida and Jonas Vingegaard, not far from the finish, and we have someone running inches away from them with a Palestinian flag, and they just ran with the flag. It does not boggle the mind to think that, again, setting aside whatever the political agenda or the issues at stake might be, when you have people that close to riders, something bad can happen, and that's not good. And it is the responsibility of the race organizers and the UCI to have a safe environment in which athletes can compete. And the stage that didn't have a finish the other day, like, this is not a set of unforeseeable events. So I'm not sure why something's not being done to control this. And even watching the moment the protesters entered the road today, I don't have any data here. Looking at the past stages where there were disruptions from protests, it seemed like there were far fewer police officers. Today, there seemed to be an adequate amount. They did not clear the course very quickly. And then, as you noted, this was not a French-style approach to restraining individuals disrupting the race. In France, they tend to secure the individual. They tend to secure the individuals.
Don't protest in France.
Yeah.
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, but this was like whack-a-mole. People kept running back out on the road. It was like a Keystone Cops kind of vibe.
And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like, sure, protesting's fantastic. But at the end of the day, you're a guy standing in the way of Bob Jungels. What is Bob Jungels? So what do you want from that? You want Bob Jungels to say, all right, I'll call my friend BB. I'll make it. Like, Bob Jungels turns around on that road and rides back to the team bus. Is that solving any problem? That's like where it loses me a little bit. I just cannot believe the race would say, like, you know what the solution is? Let's just force Israel Premier Tech to leave publicly. And they are under a lot of pressure from other riders to leave. I guess I could understand if they said, we would like them to change their jerseys and their name because we don't think it's safe. Because if they leave, I just don't think you ever come back from that. I think, A, you'd get sued. A, Sylvan Adams is never going to leave the race, the owner of that team. B, he would then sue you. C, it's just like, well, so then they might as well never start another race again because there's going to be protesters pushing them out of every race in the future. And like, yeah, maybe they could change their name. Hope maybe that would help. I don't know. I just unclear to me then, like, what do people, I feel like other riders are then looking at the riders on this team and thinking that they're somehow endorsing actions of the Israeli government, which is not even associated with the team. It's just like, it seems unfair to them. I feel bad for those guys. And I don't think the other riders, as you would see in other sports, Andrew, what do we see? We see like other sports people stick up for their colleagues in a way that's like damaging. Like, think of like the baseball players union's like the most powerful union in the world. It's like, we're all using steroids, or this happened in the past. And like, we're going to like fight it. So there's not even steroid testing allowed because that's like, we stick together no matter what. And it's just like, you clearly don't see that in cycling, which is why none of these courses are safe. They can't command anything because they'll turn on each other before they point a finger at the organizer. Like, hey, this is pretty Bush League. Can you try to take care of this? And like, think of the Zoncolan on the Giro d'Italia. It's another super steep climb like this. They have the army come out and they stand like arm to arm on the climb so that people can't get in the way of the riders. And then in Spain, it's like, I hope nothing happens. I don't know. Were there some protests the other day? I don't know. I hope those don't happen again. Like, they don't seem to have a plan here. It's quite shocking to see.
Also shocking to see Daryl Impey in front of the bus just getting drilled
every day.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, the more I think about it, this crisis has been ongoing. It precedes the start of the Vuelta. And I also believe that Israel Premier Tech should be here competing, and they should be doing so safely. And if the UCI and the race organizers felt it would not be safe for them to be in this event, the time to decide that would have been prior to starting the race, not in the middle of the event. Like, you're committed.
Yeah. And I just feel like Israel Premier Tech isn't exposing underlying problems that have always existed, and then they're getting scapegoated by the race organizer who's like, well, they just have to leave. It's like, well, this could be a protest about anything, and I guarantee you in the future it will be. But it's like it's never, because now these people have proven that you can actually be pretty disruptive of the race, and like you can't put that toothpaste back in the bottle. It's like they're just exposing problems that have existed at this race for a long time, which is, I don't think the organizers try very hard to put on a great, safe race, and they just hope there's not enough people on the roadside to cause a problem. But that's just my personal thought on that. I feel bad for those riders. I feel bad for Daryl Impey. I don't think it's fair that he's just like, I think there's an outlet for maybe expressing that frustration. I don't think Daryl Impey is the guy to express it to. I think his scope is pretty limited. Also, I mean, do we even want to? I mean, I think we could just point out there's quite a few teams in this race that I guess it's not trendy to protest at the moment, but that maybe are owned and funded and run by governments that people have had issues with in the past, and now it's just not seen as like trendy to protest them. So
then perhaps don't support free and open societies or some of the personal freedoms that our listeners likely support and that we support. Yeah, just follow the money. There's not like follow the money in professional cycling and take a look
you know
around.
what's interesting is I'm not going to name the team, but there's a team in this race owned by the richest person in Israel that's not Israel Premier Tech. But so it's kind of an interesting thing where like this team is getting no stick at all, because I guess because of their team name. So it is kind of funny. There's two teams in this race owned by Israeli business people. One of them is getting a lot of heat. The other one is flying completely under the radar. I don't want to say their name because I don't want them to start getting protested, but just an interesting thing I noted. Andrew, anything else about this Vuelta other than Mads Pedersen being awesome?
Yeah, a thought that I had today is you're Mikel Landa, you're on Sodal Quick Step. They're like, what are you doing next year, right? Then I start to think, is he going to Q36.5? Is that his destination?
Well, he did break his back recently, 2 months ago. So this is probably like a comeback race for him. Did you see him break away on stage 11 and then it looked like his back was bothering him so much he just had to stop pedaling his bike. So that was a little dispiriting to see. Mikel Landa, does he have a contract next year? He does at Sudal Quickstep. Doesn't really fit that team anymore, though,
That's
now
what
that
I'm saying.
Remco Evenepoel's gone.
Yeah, I just keep thinking about who does Pidcock get to go to Q36.5 if he's going to have a minimum viable Grand Tour team. He doesn't, because like, when have you seen Pidcock with a teammate on the screen with him or in the group behind him in the final 30 minutes of a race? Like, you're just not going to win a Grand Tour being Johnny winging it by yourself up there, I don't think.
Yeah, Lando would be an interesting one for them. They were in discussions to sign our friend Jack Burke. Ended up not doing it, but I mean, they need like all the climbing help they can get. I'm frankly surprised. I'm surprised they didn't pull the trigger on that. Yeah, Lando would be a good one. I mean, people forget. It's crazy to think because it wasn't that long ago. Going into that Giro, he was like considered a potential winner. Crashes on stage 1, and now it's like, oh, he's washed up. But Landa could be a really good fit there. I mean, where does Pidcock go from here? Like, it's an interesting. He looks focused. He looks incredible in this GC. I'm just kind of wondering, like, is that good? Is that a good career path for anybody that has other options? GC, because it's just so hard to win with you have Pogačar, and if you don't have Pogačar, you have Jonas, and if you don't have Jonas, maybe you have a chance, but like, think how good João Almeida is. Like, he won the hardest climb of this race over Jonas Vingegaard. So you just are very rarely showing up to soft. I think Simon Yates won the Giro as an outsider, and he's a former Grand Tour winner. Like, it's a lot of these you don't really see soft Grand Tour winners anymore. Like, they're all won by very, very good riders.
What about Javier Romo?
Javier Romo is, I feel like, the he is what Juan Ayuso should be, just like a man of chaos. He just launches, attacks, does his thing. I do kind of wonder, I do kind of question. He seemed very willing to work with Juan Ayuso yesterday, and it's like, I don't know if that's I don't know if I would be working with Juan Ayuso. Maybe feather that a little bit more. But the thing about Movistar, so he gets second yesterday. Javier Roma's on Movistar. Triathlete, by the way.
That's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
Because we're now starting to have this critical mass of former triathletes. Victor Campenaerts, I believe, Harry Sweeney, Nielsen Palace.
I don't know if as a society we are okay with how fast triathletes are getting on the bike.
Yeah.
I see it in my surroundings. These triathletes are crazy fast, especially like if you look at a lot of the women triathletes on the bike. I think like some of them could just start racing like Women World Tour races tomorrow and like come close to winning, if not winning. Like that's how good they are. And it's freaky. It's scary how fast these triathletes are. We must do something about it.
Well, and I used to think, and I'm sure many listeners out there have had the experience, triathletes generally, they're spending a lot of time on Zwift and by themselves wearing Spaceballs helmets and riding on equipment that's not similar to what you're using most of the time, unless you're in a time trial. However, those bikes are extremely difficult to control. So maybe you actually are getting some kind of proprioceptive advantage by riding around with a disc wheel or super deep section wheels. I mean, we've talked about it, Spencer. It's extremely windy where I am here, just inland from the coast. And I know it's very windy in Boulder as well. And, if you're out on anything deeper than 35s, it starts to get a little questionable. You start to get pushed around a lot with that front wheel if you have a deeper section. It's triathletes, they're running 90s all the time. I think that maybe that gives them an advantage.
I guess there's also a lot of these triathletes that grew up doing Olympic style triathlon, which you race in packs too.
Yes.
So you are probably developing some pack skills. It's like mountain bikers too. It's like, it's full throttle all the time. I almost feel like growing up as a road cyclist can make you almost don't tap into that extra gear because you're always like holding back, trying to get in the draft where it's like Javier Roma is just like, I'm going to rip it. I'm gripping it and ripping it. And it like, so Movistar, great riders on Movistar. Movistar, do you know the last time they won a stage at their home Grand Tour, the Vuelta España? He gets second yesterday, by the way. Doesn't win the stage.
Was it Quintana in 2021?
It was 2021, but it was Miguel Angel Lopez who won it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Man, what a guy.
What a guy. What a guy. But it has been a minute since they won. So I think that didn't help him yesterday because they had 5 riders in that breakaway. And I cannot remember what stage was this. This was the stage 2 stages before he left the race. Yeah, Lopez wins over Primož Roglič. Crazy. Where they could have like finessed it maybe, but it's like at that point you're so desperate to get a stage win, you're making bad decisions and it leads not to success. I mean, it's crazy. Pablo Castrillo gets 2 stage wins at this race last year in Kern Pharma, comes to Movistar and he's doing good, but he's like not able. It's like the Movistar curse is on him now. I mean, my friend Johan Bernil thinks that Juan Ayuso should have gone to Movistar. What do you think about that?
I don't think going there is a good move if you want your career to get better.
My question was, who has gone there and gotten better? I guess Javier Roma would be one example.
I mean,
but
what, better than when he was a triathlete?
Well, he was at Astana. He lost a few years of his career at Astana. If you remember the Astana funk between.
Right. So is Movistar better than just being in a vortex or being a triathlete? Yes. Is it? I mean, we saw Matteo Jorgensen's progression, and we've all seen the emo shoegaze Netflix documentary about Movistar. It's fun to watch. I'm not sure it's a place where you want to be. We didn't get to talk about this, but Did you see in the broadcast the moment that the Movistar team car catches up to Romo after he's been pulling
Yeah, I was
Ayuso?
just gonna say
And
this.
then the team director makes the like, why do you not have your
Earpiece in.
Yeah.
And then he like points back, and I still don't know if he's saying you have teammates behind
Right.
or Mads fucking Pedersen is behind.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because at one point they he shouldn't have been working because they had teammates back there. So why are you helping Ayuso pull away from your own teammates? But it's almost like big brain move. It was smart because Mads Pedersen dropped on that. It was a hard climb and he just like rips the scent, catches them. So if Romo maybe would have had his earpiece in, do they get caught and then Pedersen wins the stage? That's kind of an interesting. But yeah, the whole thing feels a bit shambolic. I think would be the word. Like that guy, I now look at that guy, and that documentary was so unflattering to the team, to put it mildly. I'm like, I don't know if I trust what he's saying because he seemed. When you watch that documentary, and like any documentary could make anyone look bad at anything, right? It's like not always the truth, but it's just like they just seemed overwhelmed by everything that was coming at them. Where I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm trying to make my career better if I'm going to Movistar. I mean, look at Matteo Jorgensen, leaves Movistar. He's like he's won Pyrenees twice since leaving Movistar. So maybe there's something to that.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about our conversation with Swain Tuft and a number of other writers we've talked to who have had that choose the hard way experience in Europe where, it's like a Disney animated kids film starring animated rats that they're living with in an abandoned barn, and they're eating moldy baguettes that they dug out of a dumpster. I mean, it's
and
honestly,
then Visma's like, why don't we just give you a nice house?
Yeah,
and
totally.
Like, well, go figure. They're doing well.
It is kind of mind-boggling to me how many writers we've talked to, a few on the show and many off the record, who have given us the story of their early time in Europe. And it's not a life experience that I thought you could still have after the year 2000.
In modernity.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And what's crazy is like Riley Sheehan, been on the show. So he was on a club team in Europe, and it's like in France. It's like France is like there's nice housing all over that country, just beautiful country, very modern, nice country. And he's in like the worst town in the worst house in France. And you're like, are they going out of their way to like house these riders in terrible places? Like, what is happening here? But that seems to be the way it's done in that country, which maybe is why they're struggling to develop riders to the top of the sport. Very odd, as you pointed out, since France, in other sports, very good. Rugby, soccer, basketball. Like they almost won the Olympic basketball in the last Olympics. Cycling, we don't quite know what's going on there. But you bring up something I wanted to talk about, young rider development. So like Juan Ayuso, right? This guy's amazing. And then he gets, once the rubber hits the road, it's like, well, he's amazing, but X, Y, and Z. He's not just coming in and winning the Tour de France like people thought. So like Paul Seychelles he won the Tour de l'Avenir that was recently. Young French rider, I believe 18 years old. I think he got like 8th at the Dauphiné, which is a big deal. I was recently riding on the Dauphiné course, and I could not believe, like, this guy's name was like every 5 feet. And the first thing I was thinking is poor Paul, because Paul is going to cave under this pressure that France is putting on him. But at the final stage, I think, of Tour de l'Avenir, he did like a 25-minute time trial. I think it was like 6.6 watts per kilo for that 25 minutes. To put that into perspective, like João Almeida, when he won the Tour of Switzerland time trial, it was like 24 minutes, almost the same uphill. It was like 6.8. So you're like, he's up there with Almeida. He's 18 years old. Very easy to project, right? And say, wow, this guy's going to be better than Tadej Pogacar. But I thought Larry Warbus had a really good point on the cycling podcast recently, where he's like, all these teenagers are saying like, I'm doing 6.6 watts per kilo. I'm better than my team leader. This is like Juan Ayuso disease. He thinks he's better than Pogacar. I should be the leader. They come in. No one has any humility anymore because it's like, my numbers say I'm the best. And he's like, well, what they're not understanding is like, yeah, maybe your numbers in a junior race that's 40 kilometers long, like Tour de l'Avenir at a 40-kilometer long stage, are really good. But it's like into 5-hour stage 13 of the Vuelta, like that's a different ball game. And so it is kind of like we're getting more data, but it's almost leading to worse understanding of the sport in some ways or what it takes because they're just like cherry picking. But also, think about this, like, how much did you weigh when you were 16 years old? I weighed like 130 pounds, probably was stronger than I am now. And if I was on a bike, I probably would have had similar power numbers than I do now. But my watts per kilo, like, I actually wonder if it's a mistake to think your watts per kilo will improve as you age. Like, you usually just get heavier as you get older. And then just even hold those same watts per kilo numbers are like a net gain because you're getting stronger. Like I do kind of wonder if people make mistakes sometimes where it's like, whoa, he's doing this at 18. Imagine what he's going to be like at 22. It's like he could be 30 pounds heavier at 22. Like who knows what's going to happen to his body over that time.
Yeah. I like to think of myself not as getting heavier as I age. I like to think of
Huskier,
myself as becoming
powerful.
weight enhanced. And I think
And
with these younger riders, we've talked about it. It used to be the case that whoever you are, wherever you were in the world, what would you do to access training information? For me in the late 80s, early 90s in Missouri, it was the big breakthrough was when Joe Friel published the Cyclist Training Bible. I don't know if you had that book, but
yeah.
you'd read a book, you'd make a photocopy of the annualized training plan at the back. These days, everyone has access to all information, and I think they're realizing their watts per kilo potential, like the top end of that potential at a much younger age. It's not unusual, I would imagine, for some of these junior riders on the continent to go to the volcano, to be in a sauna, to be in their Tyvek paint suit, heat training 3 or 4 days a week. They're already doing everything that you would do to top off to get the very last 0.01% of performance out of your body, but they're doing it at a young age. And that's part of the art and science of talent development is, yeah, you want someone who can walk in the door and start winning or contributing. Also, if they've already hit their ceiling, then you have a problem. And then there's the racecraft element of it as well. Not everybody's Steve Tilford, right?
Yeah, and it's like it's so if you're good, it almost is a punishing. Like Quinn Simmons, he was confused why Tim Wellens was sitting on him at the tour and then won the stage. Because think about Quinn Simmons, has he ever had to sit? Like think about when he's coming up, he just rides off the front of every race. Like he never even thinks about where to position himself because he's so good. And then it's hard. I was going to use the example. Remember Kine Udebrooks? He's now 22. He's
Right.
on Visma. He was on Bora when he was like 20 or 19. Very highly, like this guy was going to be the next Eddie Merckx. He was going to win the Tour de France. But Udebrooks, as you say, he was like living like a professional at 17 years old. And he's not like he won the won the Tour de Lan recently, second at the Czech Tour. So like good, but he's not at this Vuelta competing for the win. Like there just wasn't a lot of headroom left to improve versus like Isaac Del Toro. Like I heard he had never ridden a time trial bike before he signed his first pro contract. Like that's the guy you want, right? Because he's all upside. Like he's refined so little, and then the sky's the limit. But yeah, there's all this stuff like, can you learn how to race a bike? Because you probably didn't learn if you're really good in the juniors. Like you and I, we're learning a lot racing as kids, racing as a Cat 3, but if you're Quinn Simmons, you're probably learning nothing when you're coming up through the categories in the US.
I mean, just think about Romo and Ayuso. Why did Romo get worked over? He doesn't have racecraft at the level of Ayuso, shockingly, right?
Is he on Movistar? What's
Well,
racecraft? Yeah.
yeah, and think about same thing with Quinn. I'm not saying that I'm not in an area where we have group rides of the magnitude that I used to go on as a young person or in LA, but my experience for the decades that I did have access to those types of rides is, if you're newer to the sport or you're not used to moving around in that environment, a lot of people are going to offer you feedback. And these riders might not be getting that kind of feedback, to your point, if they're just riding off the front or can crush everyone. and then you get somebody like Romo in a 2-out break with Ayuso. It didn't seem to me that Ayuso was doing some of the outrageously abusive things that sometimes psychologically or verbally happen in those situations, but he did just sit on and pretended he couldn't contribute, and then he totally smoked him, right?
I guess they're friends too. And then he was like, after the stage, he's like, I didn't want to do that. My team made me. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, buddy. I don't tell you. You say what you have to say, but we
Yeah,
all know.
that was a little peculiar.
Yeah, it's like we know what's going on here.
I
We
I
appreciate
felt
it.
like I was reading an Instagram post after a big gravel race when he did that interview, right? Because that's always the thing in gravel races. The top riders, they're really aggrieved if anything other than just a pace line goes until like the last 2 miles of the race, and then it's like, well, we decided at this point the race would start, and it's like, well, Bob was there's Adam Roberge, the Quebecois gravel
Yeah,
pro. He's notorious apparently. I don't know Adam personally. We've exchanged a few DMs. Seems like a nice guy. I just read and hear a lot of interviews and a lot of jibber jabber from other writers attacking him for just sitting on all day and then, nuking them. And that's what a smart writer does.
yeah. I think he's I think he's a Quebecois like road cyclist. Very good road scene up there. So it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, that guy grew up like road racing
right.
and learning, and now he's applying that where he should because he's smart. I totally forgot what I was going to say, but any updates from Gravel Corner before we go, Andrew?
Oh, gravel corner. The big update is that Keegan Swenson is racing the Marathon XCO World Championship tomorrow on a course with 78 miles and I believe 17,000 feet of climbing. That's a fair amount of climbing in 78 miles. And Hannah Otto from the US also racing, both riders who were exceptional in climbing races with this type of terrain. I feel like I'm trying to think of what this is kind of like trials motorcycle riding that's kind of how I think about marathon mountain bike racing. Really cool discipline, but very much dominated by a subset of European professional athletes. And I would love to see Keegan and Hannah dominate tomorrow. Cole Patton from the US, also their US Marathon
Is
XCO
this
champion.
linked to the other mountain bike world championships? It
No,
is. It,
is it?
I don't know. I'm looking at the schedule 2025 mountain bike world championships, Valais, Switzerland. So
Yeah.
marathon is on this schedule. So I
Okay.
wonder if they have finally folded it in to the same event.
Yeah. I
But
think XCO, I believe, will be a week from tomorrow.
okay, yep. If you scroll down,
Yeah.
XCO is the last.
Yeah.
Well, this is
And
good though that they don't have marathon just out by itself
yeah.
doing its
No,
own
totally.
thing.
Yeah. And then there's the mountain bike XCO World Championships themselves, where we have Matthew Vanderpool competing using a dropper post now, no longer using a tall post.
I don't know if you saw that last. It was in Haute-Savoie in France, and he started 60th, finished 6th. At one point, I think he was in 3rd.
Right.
Johan and I were talking about it, like, I was hoping you, Johan, would knew where he was going to start because of that result. But any information about mountain biking, very hard to track down. You got to be on the right message boards. But we think he's like 4th row now or something. Maybe that's
Okay.
enough to get him high enough up there to contest.
Right.
He's a very good cyclist, I guess would be my takeaway after watching that performance. How sad is Tom Pidcock that he's not at this World
That's what I
Championship?
was going to say. If Vanderpool wins, which is not a fait accompli, he's my pick. He's there to win, obviously, and he wants to add this jersey to his collection of world championship titles. Pidcock is not going to take that well.
It's going to be, he might leave this race. He might pull a Lopez and just go straight
Yeah,
to these World Championships because I think he would be a shoe-in to win. I
yeah.
mean, which one, I mean, just what would you rather get 3rd at the Vuelta España or win the mountain bike World Championships?
Win the mountain bike world championships.
Your bank account would probably prefer you get 3rd at the Vuelta, but
Yeah.
It is a little. Pidcock is a winner, like he likes to win. It's
Yes.
just hard. I just wonder how he's going to feel about this. Unfortunately, the stage he was going to win, he didn't get to win. So he
Right.
probably won't get a stage win here. And then if it's not a guarantee he's third, by the way, because Jai
Right.
Hindley looked very good today. So he
Right.
could get like fourth or fifth, which in the abstract is very impressive for a guy like Tom Pidcock, who's never top 10 in a Grand Tour. But I do kind of agree with you that I think it's just hard for someone who could be like, I could be here getting fifth, or I could be somewhere else winning. Maybe I'll just go win instead. I'm curious to see if the GC Pidcock sticks around after this.
What I'd really like to do right now, Spencer, is be able to see a list of riders starting races at the 2025.
Don't get to do that.
Don't get to do that. I
No.
don't know about you. I'm 4 subsites deep. I feel like I'm in GeoCities in 1993. Maybe I need to send an earthlink.net email to the UCI to try to learn who's actually competing in these races. I am not able to find that information. I think Whoop is a title sponsor of the XCO World Cup as well. Maybe Jeremy Powers, are you listening? Is there a way to get this information published somewhere so we could see who's competing in the event? That'd be great.
That's like when you were like giving me you're saying who won Gravel Worlds. I'm like, how did you know? Like, where did you find this information?
Well,
Impossible to find.
I found the Charter of Rights, the Athletes Commission, medical monitoring information, a mental health link. I've not found anything about who is starting the event. I think a change of nationality form.
Fill it out. Let's do it.
Okay.
Well, I do have to run, but thank you.
Like
anything else, Andrew? Yeah, we've got disaster going on over here, but
yeah,
anything
thanks everybody for listening. Follow me at Hardway Pod. Please subscribe to my Substack, always thehardway.substack.com. You can also find that link in Spencer's recommendations. And I'm pretty excited for this marathon XCO tomorrow. I might have to hire a private eye to try to figure out if this is playing on YouTube
text you where riders are on course as it's happening.
Maybe there's going to be a Quibi 5-minute summary tomorrow. I don't know.
That would be too long for Quibi and too helpful for us to have.
Definitely. Shout out Quibi.
RIP Quibi, and we'll talk next week.
Awesome.